This is the story about our American Revolution. British General Lord Cornwallis could not suppress the American rebellion in the South. Frustrated by losses at Kings Mountain, Cowpens, and Guilford Courthouse, Cornwallis moved his army north to Virginia in an effort to turn off the spigot of French aid that was helping fuel the American resistance. By establishing a military base of operations at Yorktown, Cornwallis could be reinforced by British Royal Navy supply ships, vessels that were soon engaged in a fierce naval battle off the Virginia Capes. While French and British ships battled for control of the Chesapeake Bay, Generals George Washington and Rochambeau were marching their troops and wagon trains south through Virginia to lay siege to Yorktown, entrapping Cornwallis and his entire army. This is the story of that march.
Hello, and welcome to the Real American Revolution, where we explore what really happened before, during, and after America's War for Independence. This series, retracing the Washington-Rochambeau Revolutionary Route Trail, is sponsored by the National Park Foundation and the Washington-Rochambeau Revolutionary Route Association, commonly referred to as W3R US. Now, my name is Randy Flood, and I'll be your host through this entire series. Today we're in beautiful downtown Gloucester Courthouse, and we're very fortunate to have with us Dr. Robert Seelig, America's foremost expert in the Washington-Rochambeau Revolutionary Route Trail.
Thank you very much, Mr. Flood, for this introduction. It's great to be with you now as we're moving down the W3R, the Washington-Rochambeau Revolutionary Route. Today we are in Gloucester at Gloucester Courthouse, one of the oldest settlements in the colony of Virginia, then dating back to the earliest years of the 17th century. As a matter of fact, it's named after the Duke of Gloucester, who is the third son of King Charles I. George Washington's great-grandfather was one of the earliest land patentees here in 1650, even before the county was founded. Gloucester County played a pivotal role in the Yorktown campaign and in the victory at Yorktown across the river. This is a great opportunity to talk about the role of the French Navy in this victory at Yorktown. We keep talking about the Siege of Yorktown, but the siege means that an enemy is surrounded on all sides by opposing forces. We know that over on the Yorktown side, Generals Washington and Rochambeau bring land forces to lay siege to Lord Cornwallis. But there's also the ocean, and that ocean access or escape route also needs to be closed off, and that's what the fleet of Admiral de Grasse does coming from the West Indies. Admiral de Grasse comes from the West Indies, from what is today Haiti, and he departs there on the 5th of August, 1781. That's just after he has written a letter to Rochambeau telling him that he is going to the Chesapeake Bay. That means when that letter reaches New York, where Generals Washington and Rochambeau are, that Admiral de Grasse has forced the hand of Washington and Rochambeau. They have to go where Admiral de Grasse is going, otherwise there will be no campaign in 1781. But if we say that Admiral de Grasse is sailing to the Chesapeake from the West Indies, what are we really saying? What we are saying is that there are 28 ships of the line and a couple frigates. Just as an aside, what is a ship of the line? They get their name from the fact that in the 18th century, warships, usually with 74 guns on board, line up next to each other and fire at each other. And at some point, one of the admirals decides that he's defeated, has had enough, and sails away. So Admiral de Grasse comes with 28 ships of the line and a couple frigates. Who's on this? Each one of these ships has 600, 700, 800 people on it. Admiral de Grasse's flagship has 110 guns, and there are almost 1,500 people on there. In 1781, that means that it's larger than, say, the city of Wilmington, Delaware, larger than most towns in the revolutionary America during the War of Independence. But who else is coming? Well, Admiral de Grasse brings 3 regiments of infantry under the Marquis de Saint-Simon, and we will be talking about them landing in our next stop. He also has infantry from regular infantry regiments who are serving as Marines on his vessels. Each of these 2 groups that I just talked about are at least 3,000 men. So if we add all of this up, the ship crews, more than about 3,200 under the Marquis de Saint-Simon, and almost 3,000 men who are serving as Marines on Admiral de Grasse's vessels, we get 25,000 people, or close to 25,000 people, who are out there in the Chesapeake. Remember what we said earlier, the largest city in the United States in 1781 that's under American control is Philadelphia. There are as many people on de Grasse's fleet as live in the city of Philadelphia at the time. This is something that's easily forgotten. Now, we have brought Admiral de Grasse up here, and he lands his troops. There's one party, of course, that has a problem with Admiral de Grasse coming up here, laying siege to Lord Cornwallis, and that's the British, of course. The British High Command in New York knows that once the siege ring is established, then the escape route for Lord Cornwallis is gone. He is encircled, he's captured, and therefore Sir Henry Clinton sends a fleet down here to the Chesapeake, and on the 5th of September, the pivotal, the single most important naval battle of the War of Independence takes place, the so-called Battle of the Capes, when Admiral de Grasse sails out with his fleet to meet a British fleet under Admiral Graves. They fight in the early afternoon of the 5th of September. The battle itself is indecisive. Eventually, the British pull away and sail back to New York City. But what Admiral de Grasse does during this battle, he sails farther and farther south and takes the Royal Navy with him. Why is he doing that? He's doing that because he's opening the entrance to the Chesapeake Bay, and Admiral Barras from Newport, Rhode Island, with the siege artillery for the Siege of Yorktown, can sail into the Chesapeake Bay. Once he is in there with his 8 ships of the line and the 28 ships that Admiral de Grasse has, this is the single largest fleet that France ever has in the Western waters, and far superior to anything that the British can send there to stop him. That is one of the many contributions that Admiral de Grasse does. Because if we look at the role of the French Navy, we will see there are 5 important contributions. The first of all is, of course, the Battle of the Capes, which seals Cornwallis's fate. He will be captured. He is caught in the trap. The second is that Admiral de Grasse brings these 3 infantry regiments under the Marquis de Saint-Simon. Once they are landed and reinforce General Washington and General Rochambeau, suddenly the Allies have about 8,000 troops over in Yorktown as opposed to not quite 8,000 troops that Lord Cornwallis has. The third contribution that is very important that Admiral de Grasse contributes to the victory of Yorktown is that as soon as he returns to Chesapeake Bay, having defeated the Royal Navy, he sends ships up to Annapolis. And these ships that he sends up to Annapolis load the French army, what's left of it, onto vessels, and they sail down to the Chesapeake and land, thereby making it possible the Siege of Yorktown starts more than a week earlier than had been planned. There's a fourth contribution that Admiral de Grasse makes to this victory at Yorktown, and that is that of his line infantry that is on board his vessels. He detaches 800 men over here to Gloucester. So Gloucester, as we said, is the only escape route by land that might be possible for Lord Cornwallis. Over here, remember, we have some infantry under General Wheaton. We have the Hussars under the Duc de Lauzon. They come over here. And now, once Admiral de Grasse sends about 800 of his line infantry over here, now we have a strong body of Allied forces, of Americans and French over here in Gloucester too. Because remember, over here in Gloucester, there is no regular Continental Army whatsoever. And it is the Hussars of Lauzon's Legion and the infantry that Admiral de Grasse sends here that are responsible for the second big event that takes place over here that really seals the fate of Lord Cornwallis. And that is the so-called Battle of the Hook on the 3rd of October. Lieutenant Colonel Tarleton is out with a foraging party. There are well over 1,000 British troops over here under Simcoe, Colonel Simcoe, and Lieutenant Colonel Tarleton. And General Wheaton and the Duc de Lauzon know about this, and they ride out to meet Tarleton. They ride out with almost 300 Hussars of Lauzon's Legion and some Virginia cavalry, and they meet Lieutenant Colonel Tarleton and his cavalry and the British Legion. What is happening down the road here will be the largest cavalry engagement of the whole War of Independence as far as horses are concerned. Some 600 horses and some infantry meet here. The infantry that is involved here are Mercer's Grenadiers. Those are mostly Revolutionary War Continental Army veterans who have formed under Colonel Mercer as an ad hoc unit, and those are all experienced soldiers, and they are the ones who then will turn the tide of the battle in the afternoon of the 3rd of October. The largest cavalry battle and engagement of the War of Independence. And after the 3rd of October, now British forces over here in Gloucester Point will never try to get out of the encirclement ring. And they will surrender just like Lord Cornwallis will over in Yorktown in the afternoon of the 19th of October. But they will surrender after Lord Cornwallis has surrendered. So the final surrender actually takes place here in Gloucester County. So let's remember the role of the French Navy is a role that's easily forgotten because we don't have any big paintings of the French Navy lined up as we see it in this famous painting of Trumbull. Admiral de Grasse never sets foot on the American mainland, which is another reason maybe why he is forgotten. But if we put up a triumvirate of the three Allied commanders who are responsible for the victory at Yorktown, there would be General Washington, General Rochambeau, and Admiral de Grasse. And we will see you next over at the landing site of Continental Army and French forces for the Siege of Yorktown. Thank you very much.
Bob, thanks so much for sharing with us these valuable insights about the Washington-Rochambeau Revolutionary Route Trail. To our viewers, thank you for watching. Join us for our next episode, College Creek. On behalf of the Real American Revolution, this is Randy Flood. So long for now.